Now, we're on a tight schedule, so we have about 20 minutes to discuss what makes a school successful. So we're gonna go by the Queen's rules. And that's not the Queen of England, this is Queens, New York, which means you keep your answers short, and I can cut you off if need be. So I'm gonna turn to Michael first. And you talked a little bit about European versus the United States. Give us a sense of, how do we compare school-wise, and how are the students comparing?
Well, part of it is the story. I was an academic for longer than I like to admit. I used to teach economics. In almost every class that I taught, whether it was at Stanford, at the University of Arizona, the University of Santa Clara, the students who were educated outside the United States were at the top of the performance. And I refuse to believe it's a difference in genetic endowments. It's all about education and the quality, especially of mathematics and science education in economics. But I have to say, their written expression was also better, except when it was limited by vocabulary. So I think, that's a...
So is this anecdotal, or
That's anecdotal, but there are test scores on this. So if you look at PISA, that I so proudly announced our results on, the United States is barely in the middle of the OECD countries. There's 30-some OECD countries. We're barely in the middle. The Northern European countries are generally near the top. The Asians are at the top. And the Asians are at the top in reading as well as math and science. So our scores are much, much lower in the United States. So the idea was that students graduating from a basis school would have superb math, science, and humanities skills. And I think that we've tried to deliver on that. So we measure ourselves, as much as I like the U.S. News and World Report ranking, the most important one is the PISA.
Right, thanks. Sean, you also spent time in overseas. You were deputy superintendent in Greece. Do you agree with that? And also, I've got just a quick answer, then I got a quick follow-up on your work here in Rochester.
Well, I was in Greece, New York, which feels like overseas.
Oh, you know? I got to talk to my notes. So let's skip to the next question. So, your partnership with Rochester.
Yes.
Is that something that you think, as you look at some of your, as you've shown improvement, is that a partnership? Is that a model that can scale in other places? Or is there something that's particular to what you're doing that makes it interesting and special to your community?
Well, I think it is scalable. It's scalable in that I think there are lessons learned in different areas. So from the curricular lens, I heard Eva talk about that as well. Instructional support, our teacher-leader model, how we've changed the culture and climate by embracing the values of the parents and the community and students first, and then creating a model around that. I think there are parts of it that are scalable. I think that it's all based on a local context. For us, we entered a school that did not have a viable curriculum. There wasn't an instructional focus. Discipline it was more like a prison-like system than it was a school system. And so we had to essentially take year one, uncover the root cause of the issues, and then rebuild from that place forward. So we entered the model with a plan, but that plan was quickly changed once we saw the realities of the school. So I think there are unique opportunities. What makes University of Rochester also unique is that it's situated within the heart of the city. And so when I talk about each of the various departments, the medical center is involved, the vision care program is involved. They helped us create 1,000 pair of free glasses for our community this year. We have a clinic on site with our School of Nursing. And so the various departments in the university came together to support this unique model. So I think it is scalable. I think in every major urban setting, there are a number of colleges and universities that can dedicate their true time, especially those that certify pre-service teachers and pre-service administrators. It's not a matter of if they can do it, it's if they're willing to take on that challenge.
Right, great. And now to Ava on my right. Your schools are certainly showing terrific statistics. Are you also tracking students after they leave, what they're doing, how they're succeeding? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, our oldest kids are seniors.
Okay.
I taught them in first grade. So we don't have graduates yet, but we will track all of our kids.
Right. And are you seeing, so from those first students that are moving into high school comparing to the next groups, are you seeing differences? Are they all performing at the same levels? Are there things that you're learning as students are moving through the track that you're changing?
Well, we believe in continuous improvement, so we're always changing, but we are finding that our results are getting better as we scale.
Great, thank you. And while we're speaking right now, and please don't be gentle, as a former publisher of one of the New York newspapers, and you've recently had a book out. I was wondering if you can give us a sense of how the media is mixing messages on education. Are we getting the right message on how education is doing, certainly in this city, from the media?
Well, first, I would just say that the fourth estate is something that I believe is so important to our civic life, and it's hard to get it right when you're an outsider. So I have a lot of sympathy for the project and the difficulty. I think, sometimes the media can be quick to look at other journalists. I'm sometimes amazed that journalists will write about our schools and they've never been inside them. And I would just urge the media to really get an empirical view of what is actually happening and really look at data, because there's a lot of hearsay and anecdotal evidence which does not make for a trend. But it's hard. I mean, as someone who is leading the schools, I find I have to really drill down to understand what is happening at 46 of our schools and making sure that we're being honest with ourselves about the quality. And data tells you a lot, but there's no substitute for seeing the teaching and the quality of learning. You also can't judge from data, even though I'm a huge believer of data. How happy are the kids? Are they finding school enjoyable and pleasurable? You really have to look into the eyes of the children and see them in action to know whether that's possible. And so I think, journalists sitting at their desks are not going to be able to get that sense of things.
We have a very annoying fly on stage.
Yeah, the flies.
That left me. Thank you. Sean, give us a sense of how your school is being perceived. I mean, in the sense that you may be getting more resources, more oversight, care and attention, jealousy, problems in the community?
I think anytime schools receive additional funds, there's some envy around what that looks like and why they're being successful. We make the argument that you can invest in remediation, meaning paying lots of money over the summer for summer school and retaining kids, or you can invest up front and give kids a true sense of success. So for example, about 45% of our students are moving from grades 9 to 10 prior to the EPO, or the Educational Partnership Organization's management process. Since then, about 80% of our students are moving from grades 9 to 10. Why is that important? Research is clear that if kids don't move from 9 to 10 with the right credits and the right foundational skills, they're almost 3 times more likely to drop out by the end of their senior year. So I would say that the investment we have is essential, because we have kids who are entering the school at such abysmal rates. 98% of our kids entered school scoring a 1 or 2 on the New York State assessments in ELA and math. When you have those numbers, plus 19% projected graduation rate, plus suspensions at 2,300, you have to provide resources to lift that environment. And so within our community, our media has gotten it right. They understand that transformation takes time, especially when you're not selecting kids out. And so they have been extremely kind, and they've been supportive. And we have journalists who volunteer their time in the school helping kids with their English skills. So it's really a community-wide effort. Also, the Chronicle of Higher Ed did a piece recently. I know they're here somewhere in the audience. They did a piece recently about the beginning, the origin of the project, and they're tracking that as well. So the media, both locally and nationally, I think they're truly understanding. And what they haven't done, which I appreciate, is they haven't compared us to schools that are unique in nature, meaning they have a selection process or they have criteria that may eliminate some students. So I think they've done that well. They haven't criticized the various models, but they've just said, here is what they are. Let's not compare them let's not compare them to one another. Let's celebrate all their successes equally. And that's been important.
Right. And Michael or Olga, whichever, You mentioned in your remarks that you get about 14,000 teachers that apply for 500 spots on an annual basis. What are you looking for in your teachers to ensure success when you have such great selection opportunity?
What we need are people that actually love their subject. That's the major thing that works for the kids. Because as long as you get a person that loves math, then they can generate this, or they can make the kids believe that this is really a great thing to happen. And the better the teacher is in his subject, the better generator of good feelings these people are. That's the reason why we, for example, in the elementary school, we have experts in math, experts in English, experts in history, teaching little kids, because the younger kids are, the better prepared the teachers need to be in the depth of the subject.
And when you talked about technology and using that to scale schools, is that just on an administrative basis, or are you using that in a sense of networking some of the teacher and some of their classes into other schools?
Well, as I said, our teachers have this opportunity to see the preps of everybody else who is teaching the same course. Therefore, they are networking via that system. And with the new system that we are working on, we are actually bringing all this information to the students utilizing tablets. And I agree very much with Eva that tech is not a solution of the quality, but it can make the schools much more efficient, cheaper, and more faster learning the results, therefore to improve the quality via that. That gives you additional resources that you can put into the teachers. And the teachers are the solution to any trouble in the education system.
They're really the magic. The teachers are magic. Olga's point about, we bring these experts down to grade 1. So we have expert teachers teaching 1 through 12. The magic that you get in elementary school is profound, because the children really gravitate towards these people who love their subject and come up with these amazing examples and amazing ways to teach that you could never program. Right? Maybe sometime AI will be strong enough, but I think for the foreseeable future, you need humans in that classroom.
And at Success Academy, how do you think about your teachers?
Well, I would agree that content and passion for the content is critical. We also look for teachers who can build relationships with kids. We find that motivation is very, very key to the work that we do, and so that EQ about what kids need, and we find it very critical to the work. We also see ourselves as not only raising kids who are have a high level of academic mastery, but we see ourselves as raising children who are ethical and are growing socially and emotionally. And so in addition to the content piece, we want teachers who are sensitive and agile in that manner.
And then, with just the last few minutes of the panel, I wonder if, starting with Sean, going down through the panel, if we could just spend a minute talking about diversity in schools and same thing in the charter schools. So.
Yeah, diversity is incredible. I mean, I think that diversity of thought is important. Diversity defined by race and other measures is critical in terms of giving kids a balanced perspective in life. I think that technology provides unique opportunity to not only close the content and skill gap, but to close the opportunity gap, meaning how do we get our kids from their closed neighborhoods to see the world differently and to see a diverse perspective of if it's food or entertainment. I think that those things are critical. There was a really unique piece that was just released by New York Ed Trust about the homogeneous nature of New York State, one of the most segregated school departments in the nation. And in our area, upstate New York, there are very few people of color in leadership positions. I believe just less than 4% of superintendents in New York State who are either black or Latino. And so that's a critical issue, not just for the kids who are black and brown, but also for the white students who don't see people in power who represented in other ethnic or racial groups.
I think we've always treated students as students and tried to really ignore ethnicity and color. And we did start in a crummy neighborhood in Tucson. I mean, we didn't start in a middle-class area, but we just never thought that anything other than the education that occurs in the school and the students' exposure to it is important. And I think that it's basically our philosophy, and we're a little anachronistic in that sense, but we are what we are.
And final thoughts?
The thing that is most important to me is the ideological diversity. I lived half of my life under the communism, and I was raised under one specific ideology. So coming here and having the opportunity to give the kids a variety and freedom of actually understanding all the diversity of ideology, that's the extremely important thing to me. So going back to the question, what kind of teachers we want, I want a teacher that is willing and ready and able to make the kids to value other people's opinion and understand the ideologies that she is criticizing.
Final thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I think that diversity of thought is undervalued in our school system, and that's something that we have to tackle. I'm always saying to our teachers, you're not teaching one perspective, you're teaching the kids to think critically and question their own thoughts and question those of others. So I agree with the sentiments expressed. But we also value racial, socioeconomic diversity in our school leadership, in our teachers, in our home office. It's just a value of ours that the world is a better place when you take people from different walks of life. And so we have a great deal of emphasis on diversifying our teaching staff, our leadership, our school management, and we've done that over the last 12 years.
Well, great. Let's get a round of applause for our panelists, please. Thank you.